the distant planet of Elysium, 9 was a shadow of its former self. Once a thriving human colony, it now lay in ruins under the relentless assault of the Krylos' Armada. The alien fleet, a swarm of sleek, predatory ships, had descended without warning, their motives as cold and calculating as their advanced weaponry. The colonists, armed with little more than outdated defense systems and sheer determination, fought valiantly but were hopelessly outmatched. The skies burned with the debris of fallen ships, and the ground trembled under the constant barrage of orbital strikes. The colonists' last stronghold, a fortified bunker deep within the planet's surface, was their final refuge. Communications with Earth had been severed weeks ago, and the distress signal they had sent into the void seemed like a futile cry for help. The Krylos were unlike any enemy humanity had faced before. Their technology was centuries ahead, their tactics ruthless and efficient. They showed no mercy, no desire for negotiation, only annihilation. The colonists had learned this the hard way when their initial attempts at diplomacy were met with devastating orbital bombardments. The Krylos were not conquerors. They were exterminators. Their ships, black as the void itself, moved with a predatory grace, their weapons slicing through human defenses like paper. The colonists' makeshift fleet, a patchwork of mining vessels and retrofitted freighters, stood no chance. One by one, they were picked off, their wreckage littering the planet's surface. Amid the chaos, a small group of colonists held out hope. Among them was Captain Elena Reyes, a former Earth Defense Force officer who had retired to Elysium 9 for a quieter life. That life was now a distant memory. Reyes, along with a handful of survivors, had taken command of the resistance effort. They knew their chances were slim, but they refused to go down without a fight. Reyes stood in the dimly lit command center, her eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed the Krylos' fleet's movements. The aliens were closing in, their ships forming a tight perimeter around the colony. It was only a matter of time before they breached the bunker. "Captain, we've got incoming," shouted one of the technicians, his voice trembling with fear. Reyes turned to the display, her heart sinking as she saw a wave of Krylos fighters descending toward their position. The bunker's defenses were already stretched thin, and another assault would likely be the end of them. She clenched her fists, her mind racing for a solution. There had to be a way to buy more time, to hold out just a little longer. But deep down, she knew the truth. They were out of options. Just as despair began to take hold, a faint signal appeared on the edge of the display. At first, Reyes thought it was a glitch, a trick of the failing systems. But as she focused on it, she realized it was real, a transmission weak but unmistakable coming from the edge of the system. The signal was unlike anything she had seen before, its frequency and modulation unfamiliar. The technicians scrambled to analyze it, but before they could make sense of it, the Krylos' fleet reacted. The alien ships, which had been methodically advancing, suddenly halted, their formations shifted, their weapon systems powering down as if in response to the signal. Reyes watched in stunned silence as the Krylos, for the first time since their arrival, seemed uncertain. The colonists held their breath, their eyes fixed on the display. The signal grew stronger, its origin still unclear. Reyes felt a flicker of hope, though she dared not voice it. Whatever was out there, it had caught the Krylos off guard. And for the first time in weeks, the colonists had a reason to believe that they might not be alone. The signal continued to grow, its presence filling the command center with a sense of anticipation. Reyes turned to her crew, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her heart. "Hold your positions," she ordered. "Something's coming. And whatever it is, it's got their attention." The Krylos' fleet remained motionless, their ships hovering ominously in the sky. The colonists waited, their fate hanging in the balance. The signal grew louder, its origin now clear. It was coming from beyond the system, from the depths of space. Reyes felt a chill run down her spine as she realized what it meant. Something was coming, something powerful enough to make the Krylos hesitate. And as the signal reached its peak, the sky above Elysium 9 began to ripple, the fabric of space itself bending under the weight of an approaching vessel. The colonists watched in awe as a massive ship emerged from hyperspace, its silhouette cutting through the darkness like a blade. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, its design both alien and familiar, and as it descended toward the planet, Reyes knew one thing for certain. The tide of battle was about to turn. The warship's arrival was nothing short of miraculous. Its sheer size dwarfed the Krylos vessels, its hull gleaming with an otherworldly light. The colonists could only stare in disbelief as it took its place above the planet, its weapon systems powering up with a low, resonant hum. The Krylos, for all their advanced technology, seemed paralyzed by its presence. Reyes felt a surge of hope as she realized what the ship represented. Humanity's answer to the Krylos' threat. It was a symbol of their resilience, their refusal to be crushed by an enemy that sought to erase them from existence. And as the warship prepared to engage the Krylos fleet, Reyes knew that the battle for Elysium 9 was far from over. The colonists had been given a second chance, and they were ready to fight for their survival. The warship's arrival had changed everything, and for the first time in weeks, Reyes allowed herself to believe that they might just win. The signal that had disrupted the Krylos fleet now blazed like a beacon across the system. The colonists of Elysium 9 watched in stunned silence as the massive warship descended from the heavens, its sleek, angular design a stark contrast to the organic curves of the Krylos vessels. The ship's hull shimmered with an iridescent glow, its surface etched with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with energy. It was a marvel of human engineering, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of a species that refused to be extinguished. The warship's name, UNS Resurgence, was emblazoned across its bow, a declaration of humanity's unyielding spirit. The Krylos fleet, momentarily frozen by the warship's arrival, quickly regrouped. Their ships, though smaller in comparison, moved with a predatory precision, their weapon systems locking onto the new threat. The Resurgence responded in kind, its own systems coming online with a series of low, resonant hums that reverberated through the atmosphere. The colonists, still huddled in their bunker, could feel the vibrations in their bones, a physical reminder of the power now at their disposal. Captain Elena Reyes, her eyes fixed on the holographic display, felt a surge of hope as she realized the warship was not just a symbol. It was a weapon, one capable of turning the tide of the battle. The first exchange of fire was swift and brutal. The Resurgence unleashed a barrage of energy pulses, each one striking its target with pinpoint accuracy. Krylos ships erupted in flames, their hulls torn apart by the sheer force of the attacks. The aliens, though caught off guard, retaliated with ferocity that spoke of their desperation. Their weapons, designed to overwhelm and destroy, slammed into the Resurgence's shields, sending ripples of energy cascading across its surface. But the warship held firm, its defenses absorbing the blows with an almost casual ease. The colonists, watching from below, could hardly believe their eyes. For the first time since the invasion began, the Krylos were on the defensive. As the battle raged above, the Resurgence's commander, Admiral Marcus Kane, assessed the situation with a calm determination. A veteran of countless conflicts, Kane had seen humanity pushed to the brink before, but never like this. The Krylos were a formidable enemy, their technology and tactics unlike anything he had encountered. But the Resurgence was no ordinary warship. It was a culmination of decades of research and development, a vessel designed to counter threats that humanity had only begun to imagine. Kane knew that the fate of Elysium 9, and perhaps all of humanity, rested on his shoulders. He had no intention of failing. The Resurgence's advanced AI, codenamed Aegis, played a crucial role in the battle. Capable of processing vast amounts of data in real time, Aegis coordinated the warship's defenses and attacks with an efficiency that no human crew could match. It identified weaknesses in the Krylos formation, predicted their movements, and directed the Resurgence's weapons with surgical precision. The Krylos, for all their technological superiority, were no match for the combination of human ingenuity and machine intelligence. Their ships fell one after another, their once imposing fleet reduced to a scattered remnant. But the Krylos were not defeated yet. Their flagship, a massive vessel bristling with weapons, entered the fray. It was a behemoth, its dark hull scarred from countless battles, and it moved with a menacing grace. The Resurgence's sensors detected the flagship's approach, and Aegis immediately recalibrated its strategy. The two Titans clashed in a spectacular display of firepower, their weapons lighting up the sky with blinding flashes of energy. The colonists, watching from the surface, could only hold their breath as the battle reached its climax. The Resurgence shield began to falter under the relentless assault, and Kane knew they were running out of time. He ordered a risky maneuver, directing the warship to close the distance between itself and the Krylos flagship. The move caught the aliens off guard, and the Resurgence unleashed a devastating salvo at point-blank range. The Krylos flagship's hull buckled under the onslaught, its systems failing as it was consumed by a series of explosions. The remaining Krylos ships, now leaderless, began to retreat, their once formidable fleet reduced to a disorganized rabble. The Resurgence emerged victorious, but not unscathed. Its hull was scorched and battered, its shields barely holding. Kane knew that the battle was far from over. The Krylos would regroup, and they would return. But for now, Elysium 9 was safe. The colonists, their spirits lifted by the warship's arrival, began to emerge from their bunker, their eyes filled with hope and gratitude. Reyes, standing among them, felt a renewed sense of purpose. The Resurgence had given them a chance, and she was determined to make the most of it. As the warship descended to the planet's surface, its crew prepared to assist the colonists in rebuilding their defenses. Kane knew that the fight was far from over, but he also knew that humanity had proven its resilience once again. The Resurgence was more than just a warship. It was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity would always rise to the challenge. And as the colonists and crew worked together to prepare for battles to come, Kane felt a quiet confidence. The Krylos had underestimated humanity once. They would not make that mistake again. The Krylos Armada, though battered and disorganized, was far from defeated. Their retreat was tactical, a regrouping rather than a surrender. The UNS Resurgence had dealt them a significant blow, but the aliens were relentless, their determination to annihilate humanity undiminished. As the warship's crew worked alongside the colonists to fortify Elysium 9's defenses, Admiral Marcus Kane knew the next phase of the battle would be even more brutal. The Krylos had tasted defeat, and they would return with vengeance. The Resurgence sensors detected movement on the edge of the system, a new wave of Krylos ships, larger and more heavily armed than before. The aliens were adapting, and Kane knew humanity would have to do the same. The colonists, emboldened by the Resurgence's arrival, threw themselves into the effort to prepare for the coming assault. Captain Elena Reyes coordinated with Kane, her knowledge of the planet's terrain proving invaluable. Together, they devised a strategy to maximize the colony's limited resources. The Resurgence's engineers worked tirelessly to repair the warship's damaged systems, while the colonists set up makeshift defenses on the surface. The atmosphere was tense but determined, a shared resolve to protect their home at all costs. Reyes felt a renewed sense of purpose, her earlier despair replaced by a fierce determination. The Krylos had taken so much from them, but they would not take Elysium 9. The Krylos fleet arrived sooner than expected, their ships descending on the planet like a swarm of locusts. This time, they came prepared, their tactics more calculated, and their attacks more coordinated. The Resurgence engaged them head-on, its weapon systems firing in a relentless barrage. The warship's AI, Aegis, analyzed the Krylos' movements in real time, adapting its strategies to counter their every move. But the aliens were relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. For every ship the Resurgence destroyed, 2 more took its place. The battle raged on, the skies above Elysium 9 lit by the constant flash of energy weapons and the fiery explosions of dying ships. Kane, aboard the Resurgence, knew they were reaching their limits. The warship's shields were failing, its hull riddled with damage. The crew worked frantically to keep the ship operational, but the strain was evident. Kane's voice remained calm as he issued orders, his experience and leadership keeping the crew focused. He knew they couldn't hold out much longer. They needed a decisive advantage, something to tip the scales in their favor. It was then that Aegis identified a critical weakness in the Krylos formation. The aliens' command ship, a massive vessel at the heart of their fleet, was vulnerable. Destroying it would cripple their coordination and give the Resurgence the upper hand. The plan was risky, requiring the Resurgence to break through the Krylos' defenses and deliver a precise strike to the command ship's core. Kane knew the odds were against them, but he also knew they had no other choice. He ordered the crew to prepare for the maneuver, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. The Resurgence surged forward, its engine straining as it pushed through the Krylos' lines. The aliens, caught off guard by the audacity of the move, scrambled to intercept the warship. The Resurgence shields flickered and failed under the onslaught, its hull taking direct hits. But Kane held his course, his eyes fixed on command ship ahead. The Resurgence reached its target, its weapons locking onto the command ship's core. The Krylos, realizing the danger, unleashed everything they had in a desperate attempt to stop the warship. The Resurgence hull buckled under the strain, its systems failing one by one. But Kane refused to back down. With final command, he ordered the weapons to fire. A concentrated burst of energy lanced through the command ship's defenses, striking its core with devastating precision. The resulting explosion tore through the Krylos' fleet, their ships thrown into disarray as their command structure collapsed. The Resurgence, its mission accomplished, began to withdraw. The warship was barely operational, its crew exhausted, and its systems on the verge of failure. But the battle was far from over. The Krylos, though leaderless, were still a formidable force. Kane knew they would regroup, and he also knew the Resurgence wouldn't survive another engagement. As the warship limped back to Elysium 9, Kane contacted Reyes, his voice heavy with both relief and urgency. "We bought some time," he said, "but this isn't over. We need to prepare for their next move." Reyes, watching from the surface, felt a mix of triumph and apprehension. The Resurgence had turned the tide once again, but the cost had been high. The Colonists, though inspired by the warship's bravery, knew the fight was far from won. As the Resurgence descended to the planet's surface, its crew and the Colonists worked together to assess the damage and prepare for the battles to come. The Krylos had been dealt a significant blow, but they were not yet defeated, and as the Colonists and crew looked to the horizon, they knew the true test of their resolve was still ahead. The Resurgence had given them a chance, but it was up to them to seize it. The battle for Elysium 9 was far from over, and humanity's survival hung in the balance. The UNS Resurgence sat heavily on the surface of Elysium 9, its once gleaming hull now scorched and battered. The warship's crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage, their efforts fueled by a mix of exhaustion and determination. Admiral Marcus Kane, though weary, remained resolute. The battle had taken a heavy toll, but they had bought precious time. The Krylos' fleet, though crippled, was not destroyed. Kane knew they would return, and when they did, the fight would be even more desperate. He gathered his officers and Captain Elena Reyes in the Resurgence's war room, their faces grim but focused. The time had come to plan their next move. Reyes, her knowledge of the planet's terrain and resources invaluable, proposed a bold strategy. Elysium 9's surface was rich in raw materials, including rare minerals that could be used to enhance the Resurgence's weapons and shields. The Colonists, many of whom were engineers and technicians, volunteered to assist in the effort. Together, they began harvesting and refining the materials, their work fueled by a shared sense of purpose. The Resurgence engineers, working alongside the Colonists, integrated the new components into the warship systems. The process was grueling, but the results were worth it. The Resurgence emerged stronger, its weapons more powerful and its shields more resilient. Kane felt a flicker of hope as he surveyed the upgraded warship. They were not just surviving, they were adapting. The Krylos, true to Kane predictions, returned sooner than expected. Their fleet, though smaller than before, was more focused and determined. The aliens had learned from their previous defeats, their tactics more refined and their attacks more precise. The Resurgence launched to meet them, its upgraded systems humming with energy. The battle was fierce. The skies above Elysium 9 once again lit by the flash of energy weapons and the fiery explosions of dying ships. The Resurgence's enhanced weapons tore through the Krylos' defenses, its shields absorbing the aliens' attacks with ease. But the Krylos were relentless, their ships swarming the warship like a pack of wolves. Kane, aboard the Resurgence, directed the battle with a calm precision. The warship's AI, Aegis, analyzed the Krylos' movements in real time, adapting its strategies to counter their every move. But the aliens were relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. The Resurgence S-shield began to falter under the constant barrage, its hull taking direct hits. Kane knew they couldn't hold out much longer. They needed a decisive advantage. It was then that Reyes, monitoring the battle from the surface, proposed a risky plan. The colonists had rigged a series of underground explosives, designed to create a massive shockwave that would disrupt the Krylos' formation. The plan required precise timing and coordination, but if it worked, it could turn the tide of the battle. Kane, though hesitant, agreed to the plan. The Resurgence began to withdraw, luring the Krylos' fleet into position. The aliens, sensing victory, pursued the warship with a single-minded determination. As the Krylos ships closed in, Reyes gave the signal. The explosives detonated, the shockwave rippling through the atmosphere and disrupting the aliens' formation. The Resurgence, its systems momentarily affected by the blast, quickly recovered and unleashed a devastating counterattack. The Krylos, caught off guard by the sudden turn of events, were thrown into disarray. Their ships, unable to maintain formation, fell one after another under the Resurgence's relentless assault. The battle reached its climax as the Resurgence targeted the Krylos' remaining command ship. The aliens, desperate to protect their leader, threw everything they had at the warship. The Resurgence's shields failed, its hull taking direct hits. But Kane held his course, his eyes fixed on the command ship ahead. With a final command, he ordered the weapons to fire. A concentrated burst of energy lands through the command ship's defenses, striking its core with devastating precision. The resulting explosion tore through the Krylos' fleet, their ships thrown into disarray as their command structure collapsed. The Resurgence, its mission accomplished, began to withdraw. The warship was barely operational, its crew exhausted, and its systems on the verge of failure. But the battle was over. The Krylos, their fleet decimated and their command structure destroyed, began a full retreat. The colonists, watching from the surface, erupted in cheers, their voices filled with relief and triumph. Reyes, standing among them, felt a mix of exhaustion and pride. They had done the impossible. They had turned the tide of the battle and secured their survival. As the Resurgence descended to the planet's surface, its crew and the colonists began the arduous task of rebuilding. The battle had taken a heavy toll, but it had also forged a bond between them. They had faced the brink of annihilation and emerged stronger, their resolve unshaken. Kane, surveying the damage of Victoria's warship, felt a quiet confidence. The Krylos had underestimated humanity once. They would not make that mistake again. And as the colonists and crew looked at the horizon, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The Resurgence had given them a chance, and they had seized it. The battle for Elysium 9 was over, but humanity's story was just beginning.